special thanks to Channels TV. I didn't even know until this election that you can watch Channels TV as if you're in Nigeria. This is all the way in Toronto, Canada. I'm still watching Channels TV, and the reception, it was very clear. The voice, everything was beautiful. Channels TV, take this one. Congrats to the president. Let's make Nigeria work.
Great. I mean, clear pictures, clear comments coming from a lot of our viewers all around the world. We'd like to thank you, and we'd also like you to keep them coming, especially your reactions to the announcements earlier today. Hashtag 2019 elections, hashtag the verdict. And of course, we'll continue the coverage.
Yeah, something else. At this point, we're looking at the going forward, building an agenda for the government. So you could also send a short clip of what you expect from the government. Hashtag my expectations. Let's see how we can let the government know what the people are seeking around the country, indeed.
We'd like to thank our guests who are in the Abuja studios for their patience coming from the news. We have Catch Onanoju, People's Democratic Party member, and Dapo Kionshu, a legal practitioner, and of course in our Lagos studios, Olushola Aino. But let's go back to our guests in Abuja and ask, I mean, enough of the, back and forth. Moving forward, the agenda setting for this incoming administration, what would you expect?
Mr. Onanoju,
I will tell
take the first, yes.
Whoever ultimately becomes government, the first thing to do is an honest reform of the electoral system. This cannot be again. We've now failed, and of course, this is not possible. We've become a very large country by number. We need to digitalize. Now, you can see it was a bad thing not to have signed the Electoral Act amendment into law. If we had had that signed, I believe a lot of this will have been minimized. But of course, we now have seen the reasons why they were not signed, and this is the problem with politicians.
But what are the areas, looking at the Electoral Act, Mr. Onanoju, what areas? Because we know some of the areas that were the new items that were put in the Electoral Act that the amendment didn't see the light of day. What areas do you think will transform the process?
One, we need to digitalize the entire system. Two, we need to make the card reader mandatory. Three, most importantly, we must commit to transmission of results right from wherever the elections are done to a public server. We can even get a server to be hosted outside by whoever. So the idea of INEC telling you their servers have been shut down so that people can go back and do some reworkings before they bring it back in, that does not serve the system. So I believe right now that we've seen that we are challenged, we must start yesterday. Not even an issue about today, tomorrow, or whenever. No, it's for the sake of our democracy and for the sake of our country, for the sake of our peace and stability of this country. Right now that the PDP has rejected those results, I believe we understand that we can do better to actually run a much more transparent election than the sham that we've had at the weekend.
Mr. Akiosho, do you disagree with Mr. Onanoju? I mean, you said the elections were free and fair. That's what you said earlier. Do you disagree with what he has said with regards to the process and some of the things he wants to see done?
Certainly, I disagree with him totally.
Meaning that, sorry, hold on, Mr.
A member of
Kioshu.
PDP.
Meaning that you do not want for the system to be digitized. You don't want for there to be independent collation of results and so on. You don't want any of that, right?
No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm talking about starting from the point where he says that the elections were not free and fair, that these are the worst elections, these are sham elections. These are very strange rhetorics coming from PDP. We were all part of the system when the elections happened in 2011, in 2007, what happened in Ekiti State, what happened in Osun State, what happened in Akwa Ibom. And across the country, there was violence which marred all the elections then. I said earlier that the elections this time around have been much calmer and much more peaceful than we've ever seen. Yes, there were a few pockets of violence. In the whole of Lagos State, violence was mentioned in one area. Not that violence is good anywhere, but what we're saying is that, generally speaking, the violence has definitely reduced from what we've seen in the past years. To make a blanket allegation that the armed forces and soldiers were attacking some people or victimizing without any facts to prove that, it is total hogwash. And we need to be careful in making blanket allegations that cannot be proven. Just coming on air to say this happened, armed forces are doing this, when it is blatantly untrue, it should be stopped. And when you find a situation where you say, oh, we should deploy card readers, we should deploy immediately, do we have enough infrastructure at this time to do all of that? In every rural, how many of the areas do they have internet access? All over the country. So you want to say we should start doing that now when there's no infrastructure to support it? How many Nigerians actually are on the internet with all the amount of internet available? So we cannot just say in all the rural areas and all the various areas where the elections are taking place at the same time. If we're not ready for it, we're not yet ready for it. Those things will come, but development is a gradual process. But you cannot say until we have all that in place, we should not hold elections.
So are you saying that, to your best knowledge, that following what INEC had and everything that they had to prepare, that they did the best according to the resources available to them?
I'm sure you would agree with me, and we had it on news, that INEC did not even get the budget passed until November. The time they had to prepare from when funds were released to them was certainly, they put up a very good show with the resources available to them, the time that was made available to them. It could be better without a doubt, but certainly we need to give kudos to people when they do well. And not just because we have lost elections and we start making blanket allegations and making wild stories about things that never happened, or making a mountain out of a molehill.
Okay, Mr. Aina, the going forward, the process, we talked about the deployment of the technology, digitizing the system so that it makes it easier, and an independent collation of results so that we don't spend, like what we had like 2-3 days to collate all the results together. What's your thinking?
Yeah, I'm all for technology first, but I think I would like to back up a little bit. I want us to address the root cause. There must be a root cause analysis of all this. And I want us to, first of all, look at ourselves. Why? What do we stand for as a Nigeria? Why are we Nigeria? We need to, first of all, work on our mindset, because you can have all this infrastructure in place. You can have all the Electoral Act in place. You can put everything in place. But if our mindset has not been changed by putting Nigeria first, we will still continue in this circle. So the first thing I want us to think about, first of all, to put it on the table for this administration, congratulations to them, is one, I want us to look at it that a leader gives hope, and a leader also gives direction. And not only that one, they give us perception, good perception of Nigeria. What do we think about our country? What is it that average Nigeria is thinking on the streets about Nigeria? Can a Nigerian die for Nigeria? If the answer is no, if you do a statistics between for 10 Nigerians, and if you are getting 8, I'm sorry, we need to work on that area first. When we work on that area and we get it, then this other one become easy. I always tell people this, that if you give hope to Nigeria, if we address the issue of unity, security will fade away, prosperity will come immediately. Because everybody will now say, this is my country, it's not their country. So from there, we can now begin to say, okay, somebody can volunteer. We've seen it in some countries, in some climes, where some people say, okay, for this election, they will go to whatever parastatal, Ministry of Information, or as the case may be, and say, you know what, I'm donating $1 million to make sure this works. I'm donating X amount of money because it's our country. So until that time, we will just continue. So my take now, going forward, is for this administration to come to have a program in place whereby they give hope to Nigeria. They will allow every one of us to say, this is my country and I can die for it. You may be thinking, for these 4 years, how is it going to be possible? But we need to start from somewhere.